For our final project, we recreated the game Doodle Jump. So to start the program, you simply need to run the executable file sfml-app, and the game will pop up on the screen. Okay, so the objective of the game is to make it as high as you can without dying. As we can see here on the screen, your character moves alongside your mouse, so you can just use your trackpad to move back and forth in the game. And you jump up by landing on these platforms pictured. The green ones will remain stable, the blue move side to side, and the brown will actually disappear when you touch them. Running into either the monster or the page rip, as shown on the left here, will cause your character to die, so you want to avoid those at all costs. As shown here, jumping on the spring will boost you up much further and much faster than the regular platforms, so those are really good to look out for. To kill a monster in the game, you simply shoot them by pressing the spacebar. If you die, you will be brought to this screen, which up top here shows your score. And then all the way at the bottom, there's a play again button, which will give you the option to start over. There are 3 possible ways to die in the game. The first one we saw, jumping into a monster. The second one we will see here in a second, which is falling to the bottom of the page, right here. And then coming up, the third way to die is by running into the black hole, right? Okay, so that brings us to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed watching us play our game Doodle Jump. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.
So most of what we do in our code comes from these classes. Our classes use a polymorphism. So we have this interface object, and all these classes down here inherit from this main class. So you have the 2 protective fields, x and y, which is the position, and the 4 methods here, which are getters and setters for the x and y. For platform, we had an extra field called is gone, which basically just notifies the game if the platform should be gone from the screen or not. So we also have a test suite here, just testing all the methods from the classes above. So SFML is an interesting library. You can pretty much load and create any sprite and textures that you want. So basically how it works is textures are the picture that the sprite will own, but sprites are like the images on the in the game. So like the holes and the platforms, you would load that into a texture, and then you would set the sprite texture to what you just loaded the picture into. So basically I just did all that for every single sprite in the game. So this includes like the different platforms, the different monsters in the game, and the background, as well as the main character. And all this is just making sure that the origin of the sprites are in the center of it, because SFML automatically uses set position for the top left corner of the picture that you're loading. So that got a little confusing when I was trying to place things on the screen. So I wanted to make sure I set it to the origin to be in the center of the pictures instead. This is just rendering the window, and then the frame rate limit. Make sure that when I didn't have this, the Doodle Jump character was going a little crazy. So I set this to make sure that it was it was not erratic. The behavior wasn't erratic. This is the music for the game. Just make sure it plays. This sets to a loop, and then this sets the volume. This normal volume level is part of a bunch of constants that I made up here. So really, the only important ones here that I should mention are the height and width of the window, and the gravity, as well as the volume level. So sound buffers, right? You load a sound buffer as like one of a WAV file, um, and then the sounds basically take. You make a new instance of a sound, and then load. You set the buffer as the sound that you just loaded. Um, a clock. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And then so what I did here was created 4 decks that would represent all of the platforms that are on the screen, as well as the monsters. And then what I did was I set a certain size for each of the, or basically however many I wanted of each platform to be on the screen at a time. Loaded a new instance of that platform, and then push back that platform onto the deck. And then I did the same thing for the monsters. And then these are a bunch of constants and variables to keep track of. These aren't constants. These are just variables to keep track of because these can change, at least some of them. But if you want the game to be harder, then you can manipulate some of these time to generate monsters. So every 20 seconds or every 15 seconds, you would generate a monster or a hole. Um, yeah, so pretty much these these are manipulated within the game. And then I created another deck of the bullets that stays empty for now because no one has shot anything before the game started. This is all in main, by the way. And then I created a monster to render as a sprite. So this is just the first monster to render, and it's gonna be 0. And then I created a hole to render so that I can keep track of when I'm rendering a hole, and then create a new instance of that. When I create all these new instances, I make sure I delete it at the bottom, just to make sure that I prevent memory leaks. So now that we've gotten all of the constants and preliminary stuff out of the way, this is when the game starts. So while the window is open, do all of these things. And this runs every single second of the game. So everything that's in here, it'll constantly check every second to make sure it's happening. There's a lot going on in here, so I'll just go over a few things. This creates a new instance of an event, which means that something is left to happen. Pretty much explained in the comments, but this checks what event is being triggered. So like if you're closing the window, if you're pressing a button, um, or if you're moving your mouse, then do these certain things. If you press space, then make sure you push a new bullet onto the deck, um, and then play the shoot sound and stuff like that. This is to keep track of my time, just to see when, like for example, I'll say like I think I use it. Oh yeah, here. So I'll be like, how much time has passed? If so, then give it a certain amount of points, and then I use it in other places as well. So this is all the monster stuff, and then this is all the whole stuff. Basically, this is just keeping track of how many monsters are on the screen. If it's 0, then generate a new monster every certain amount of time. Um, this is so that you can use your keyboard as instead of your mouse, just in case you don't want to use your mouse, you don't have one or whatever. This is the same monster idea, but for holes, generated every certain amount of time, and then make sure there's no holes on the screen. This is what to do if you lose the game. This handles gravity. And this is everything you do. Not you, but this is what happens every time the user reaches a certain point. So like if the user gets to a certain point on the screen, which is, I think I made it to be 200, then generate new platforms. So these generate new platforms, and then this made sure that the monster is gone from the screen. Same thing with the hole. And then this is bullet handling. So if the bullet's off the screen or if the bullet hits a monster. So if the bullet's off the screen, then delete it and then get rid of it from the deck. And if the bullet hits a monster, then get rid of the monster. And then this happens every second. So this is, this is collision handling. So if you hit a monster or a platform, then this is what you should be doing. So dy equals -10, make sure that you are bounced back up. If you hit a brown platform, then you're not being bounced up. The brown platform just disappears. The green spring increases your bouncing. Just made it a random variable, but when you play the game, it makes sense. It bounces you up more than a regular platform. So this is just the initial position. This just ensures that at the beginning you're not started just randomly. This puts you at a certain position. Like for the first 3 seconds, you're just going up at a constant rate. And then this is just for rendering. So this is what to do when the game is over. So I'm saying, oh, this is the score. Stop the music. Render the play again sprite. So it shows you can press it if you play. If you press it, then you can play again. And then this is what to do when the game isn't over. So it's rendering all the holes, the monsters, and the platform. And then window.display, make sure that you display everything that you drew onto the window. So this basically just window.draw basically draws the sprite on the screen. Yeah.